Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases course for the fall 2019 semester, I've been creating a series of video presentations for the textbook that will be used for this class, that being Pro ASP.NET MVC 5 and A-Press Text by Adam Freeman. I'm working my way through the book, and I'm up to Chapter 22 of 27. Chapter 22, as you can see right here, is on templated helper methods. And the author mentions that the HTML helpers that we looked at in the previous chapter generate a specific type of element, which means we have to decide in advance what kind of element should be used to represent model properties and to manually update the views if the type of a property changes. In this chapter, the author will demonstrate the use of templated helper methods, with which, as he says, you can specify the property you want displayed and let MVC figure out what HTML elements are required. This is a more flexible approach to displaying data to the user, although it requires some initial care and attention to set up. So, for the sample project in this chapter, I'm going to continue using the helper method project from Chapter 21. In that project, we created a person class with a couple of supporting types that were shown right here. All right, on page 518. The example project contains a home controller that we use to display forms and receive posts. We can see the definition here on the bottom of page 618 and going up to the top portion of page 619. Up here. All right. It is the two create person methods, action methods, that we will be using in this chapter, both of which render the views homes create person .cshtml view file. In listing 22.3 says you can see that the create person view from the end of the last chapter, but it has a single simple change. So we want to go back to our create person CSHTML file, and up near the top, right after our view bag, we're going to add in here an HTML enable client validation set to false. We made this addition because by default, helper methods will add data attributes to HTML elements they generate to support the kind of form validation showed when we created the sports score application. We do not want those attributes in this chapter, so we have used the HTML.enabled client validation method to disable them for the create person view. The client validation feature is still enabled for the rest of the application, and the author will explain how validation works in detail in Chapter 25. All right, using templated helper methods. The first templated helper method that we're going to look at are HTML.editor and HTML.editor4. The editor method, as mentioned, takes a string argument that specifies the property for which an editor element is required. This helper follows the search process described in Chapter 20 to locate a corresponding property in the view bag and model object. The edit4 is a strongly typed equivalent, which allows you to use a lambda expression to specify a model property that we want the editor element for. In 22.2 here, we are still looking at the createperson.cshtml file. So it says here, in this listing, we have applied both the editor and editor 4 helper methods. The author says he prefers to use strongly typed helpers because they reduce the chances of causing an error by mistyping. But we have used both types in this listing to demonstrate that it is totally legit to mix and match. So you notice here we've got the non-lambda, and here we've got the lambda. So let's just grab the entire using statement that's right here, copy it to the clipboard, come back down here, again come up to that using statement, and drop the whole puppy in right there. All right. And I believe, at least, I believe that if we run this, we're not going to see any difference. Except we've added an additional field, all right, with the birth date in there, and notice it's set up already as a date time field, and we've taken the role and we have changed it back so that rather than it being a drop down as it was, it is back to where we have to manually add it. Notice if we click in the birth date field, nothing magical is going to happen, but we're going to change that, I believe, momentarily. So the HTML elements created by the editor and editor 4 are the same. The only difference is the way you specify the property that the elements are created for. All right. Now, according to what they show in the book, I'm in the middle of figure 22.2. And in the Opera browser, they mention there, we would get this, where we would be able to get a date picker and a time chooser. All right. And the author mentions here, if we take a look, says, notice the elements for the person ID and birth date properties look different. The person ID element has the spinner arrows, which allow you to increment and decrement right there. And the birth date we already talked about. The HTML5 specs defines different types of input elements that can be used to edit common data types, etc. All right. So the author has come in here, let's see, and shown you type is number, type is text, etc. That's in the generated HTML. Type equals date time. So I don't know if mine is still up. I guess it is. We right mouse click, view the page source, type number, type text, etc. The type attribute specifies which kind of input element should be displayed by the browser. Okay. Now down towards the bottom half of the page here, the author says you can see that by using the templated helper methods, we have been able to tailor the form elements to the content, although not in an especially useful way. All right. We can see the complete set of helpers in table 22-2, which is on page 623. The author says these will be demonstrated in the following sections. All right. Generating label and display elements. The top of page 624. To demonstrate the other helper methods, the author is going to add a new action method and view to the example that will display a read-only view of the data submitted to the HTML form. First, we have updated the post version of the create person as shown. So let's go back to our home controller. All right, and in post, we've got return view person. You have to stop the run first. We added the displayperson.cs HTML view file, and now we're going to go and set the contents of that. All right. And I'm going to try something here just because I can. I don't know. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to right mouse click on the create person, and I'm going to choose copy and go back to home here and paste. So now I've got a copy, and I want to change the name to display person.cshtml. All right, now we're going to bring that up. Just remove all of it, just to show you just another way of doing things, not to confuse you or anything. So if I did, I apologize. Let's pretty this up a tad as we're starting to work our way through it. All right. And I'm wondering if I'm missing anything. Hopefully I'm not. It says you can see the output from this by starting the application, going to the create person URL, filling in the form, and clicking the submit button. The result should be here. Okay, so let's try it. File, save all. Run the program. Go over to our create person. Fill in something. Now he manually fills this in. I don't know if we had to do that or not. Adam Freeman, he left it as admin, and he left the time, etc. Let's put in today's date and time. So we'll put in today, 6/12/2019, and I'll even put in a time, which is 7. We'll put in 37. It's just about that. Submit. And there we see it. It says you can see the output of the helper methods produced, or the stuff that was generated. So if we right mouse click and choose view page source, that's what's shown on 625 in the top half of page 626. And the author says here, although these helpers may not seem especially useful at the moment, he will show you later how to change their behavior to produce output that's much more the kind of thing we'd want to display to users. All right, so the next section is using whole model. Templated helpers. I think I'm going to stop right here, and we'll pick this up on part 2.